All right, we are going to talk about organic molecules today. So, when we use the term organic molecules, we're talking about molecules that have a carbon backbone basically to them, that they're mainly comprised of carbon atoms. So, that is your main ingredient when we're talking about organic molecules, is that they have carbon. But typically, they also have hydrogen. So, having carbon and hydrogen can make them an organic molecule. And they tend to have a structure that is either ring-like or a chain-like structure. So we'll kind of look for that as we're discussing the different types of organic molecules. So we mentioned that carbon is part of the organic molecules as well as hydrogen, but there are other elements that are essential for the molecules that are required for living things. So we see here this kind of word, if you want to say it is a word, chomps. So this is an easy way to remember the elements that are required by living things. So we have carbon, hydrogen, which we've already mentioned, but also oxygen is a main component of a lot of these different types of molecules that we're going to talk about. And then nitrogen is also extremely important. Phosphorus, and sulfur. So I want you to kind of keep these elements in the back of your mind as we talk about these different types of molecules and look for which ones have nitrogen, which one has phosphorus, which one has oxygen within it. And over on the left-hand side, we've got kind of the structure of each of these so you can kind of see how many electrons are present within the electron shells for each one of these molecules. All right. So we're going to talk about these organic molecules. And to start off, I want to mention that we can talk about them very generically and give them the term polymers. So polymer simply refers to a very large molecule. And these large molecules typically consist of repeating subunits that we call monomers. So the monomers are basically the building blocks. You take one monomer, you join it to another monomer, and you keep on joining monomers, and eventually you have a polymer or a much larger molecule. So it's kind of like a train if you think about it. You can add on cars to a train and make it even longer in size. It's the same thing with these polymers. We can take one monomer and keep on adding to the ends of each of these monomers and create a much larger molecule. So typically we're looking for a basic building block when we're talking about these polymers. So let's look at one. An example is carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are polymers. So they consist of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So this is a basic formula for a carbohydrate. So the idea here is that the hydrogen has a 2 beside it to recognize that it has twice the amount of hydrogen as it does carbon and oxygen. All right, so we are going to be talking about glucose later on, and glucose is C6H, if I can write very well here, 12O6. All right, so hydrogen, all right, twice the amount of hydrogen as carbon and oxygen. So hydrogen, there's 12 atoms of hydrogen, there's 6 of carbon and 6 of oxygen. So once again, having twice the amount of the hydrogen as the carbon and the oxygen. Okay, so carbohydrates are polymers, we said, and they are made up of monomers. So our monomers in this case are monosaccharides or single sugars. So a monosaccharide, All right, saccharide refers to sugar and mono refers to single or one. So they're very small, and as you can see kind of in the image here, it's showing a monosaccharide. And we can join those monosaccharides together to form something a little bit larger. So here it's showing the ring-like structure of a simple sugar. And if we take two of those rings and join them together, or two of the monosaccharides and join them together, we have a disaccharide. Okay, so a single sugar would be something like glucose or fructose. Notice that OSE ending on it, that refers to a sugar. And we can take those building blocks of either glucose or fructose or both of them and combine them together to make a disaccharide or a double sugar. So saccharide, once again, referring to sugar, di referring to two. In this case, we have the example of sucrose. So you see the sugar packet there, and that's basically the sugar that you buy at the grocery store. So that sugar is called sucrose. Another disaccharide is lactose. So these are made by joining two monosaccharides together. Now we're going to take a big jump and say, what if we join a lot more of these monosaccharides together? Then we have what is called a polysaccharide, where we have more than two sugars. So in this case, we can talk about large molecules such as starch or glycogen or cellulose. All right, so these are when we have hundreds of monosaccharides, if not thousands of monosaccharides joined together. So starch is a carbohydrate that plants produce. So as they go through the process of photosynthesis, they are producing sugars. They are producing glucose. And if they don't need that glucose right away, they will then start adding glucose molecules together to make the much larger polysaccharide of starch. And it's their extra energy reserves. They kind of store it away, which is why we think of potatoes as having starch, because they're an underground storage organ for plants. So their extra energy reserves are basically stored away for when they need them. In animals, we store our energy reserves a little bit differently. We store it in the form of glycogen. So this is the extra storage energy in the form of a carbohydrate for animals. We don't store our extra energy reserves as starch. So different structure, but still a polysaccharide. Another example of a polysaccharide is cellulose. This is a carbohydrate that's extremely important in the construction of the body of a plant. So cellulose is found in the cell walls of plant cells. So it's a major structural component in plant cell walls. So in order to grow, these plants need to be able to produce cellulose.